Okay, the meeting is called to order at 5:02. Hearing session. This is the portion of our meeting designated for comments from the public about matters related to the closed session agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 20 minutes allocated for a particular item or topic. To address the governing board, please submit to the clerk of the board a completed speaker card prior to the start of the closed session portion of the meeting. No cards?
I don't see any requests, no.
Great. And we will adjourn to closed session at 5:04. Right, so we will return from closed session and reconvene into open session at 6:09. There was no action taken in closed session. So we will move to the flag salute. We have two students here. We have Zion and Magnolia. So if one of you would like to lead us in our flag salute, we would be pleased to have you do so.
Good evening, board president, board members, district leaders, and members of the community. My name is Zion Moody. I am currently a sixth grade student at San Onofre School aboard Camp Pendleton, and I am pleased to join you this evening as a student leader.
And hello, I'm Magnolia McGinnis. I'm a fifth grade student leader from San Onofre School. And I'm also happy to participate in the board meeting this evening. At this time, I would like to ask you all to stand. Place your right hand over your heart and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation
under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and
justice for all.
All right, and ladies, that will bring us
Thank
to our
you.
student presentation. Thank
May be
you.
seated. Like most students, I get really excited about a new school year. As you will see in the following video, the administrators, teachers, and staff in their school district get pretty excited about a new school year as well.
To welcome teachers and staff into the new school year, Superintendent Hazel and her leadership team and board members visited each school. Teachers and staff worked hard to get ready for the first day of school.
You will also see some clips in this video of students walking into campus and greeting their teachers and their friends. Thank you for your attention. We would like to wish everybody a great school year. Now, please enjoy this video that shows school visits and some of your highlights from the first week of school.
I would love for you to come up and receive a little award from us in recognition of your presentation to Magnolia and Zion. Give a round of applause. Photo, award, if you could come with me. Over here, board and team, if you could come on over, everybody. Yeah. First, we'll talk to the parents. Hold on. You gotta get close, you gotta get close. Second row, I think second row.
There you go.
All right, first for the parents, here we go. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Good. One for Raul for our website.
All right, so that brings us to approval of minutes of August 7th, 2023 regular meeting. It is recommended the governing board approve the minutes of the August 7th, 2023 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? A motion, thank you. Ms. I don't know, taking notes. Ms. McBride, motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. And then Ms. Sabal, I'll call for the vote. Aye. Ms. Lundin.
Aye.
Mr. Favela.
Aye.
Ms. McBride. Aye. And I vote aye. All right, this brings us to the hearing session. This is the portion of our meeting designated for comments from the public about matters not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Should individuals wish to comment on items on the present agenda, they may do so during this portion of the meeting or at the time the item is considered by the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 20 minutes allocated for a particular item or topic. While the Brown Act allows the board to hear issues within its jurisdiction from the public that are not on the agenda, it only allows the board to respond in a very limited manner, such as providing direction to staff. If the board were to have more than this type of brief discussion on an item not on the agenda, it could be a violation of the Brown Act's rules for posting the agenda. To address the governing board, please submit to the clerk of the board a completed speaker card prior to the start of the open session portion of the meeting. Mr. Fidala, do we have?
We do have
All right.
request to speak, and we can begin with Abby Uresti.
Good evening. My name is Abby Uresti, and I'm the mother of Lucas Uresti. He's an 8th grade student new to Potter Junior High and the youngest of 5 siblings. I'm here to share the humiliation my son had to endure while on campus during normal school hours last Wednesday, August 16th, 2023. What I experienced and how I was treated by the administrative staff in charge when asked how this happened in the first place. My first interaction with staff on this was a school nurse who was empathetic but had no explanation as to why restrooms were locked during school hours. It was my son who called home, not the nurse, as she should have, while my son was tending to himself after encountering multiple locked restrooms during his class time after his school lunch break. My second interaction was Mr. Hewish, the vice principal, who kept skirting the word policy, especially when I told him that locked restrooms is unsatisfactory during school hours, and began questioning the school policy on this and where to find the information in the handbook. My third interaction was with the school's principal, Dr. Gonzalez, who explained to me that he's new to the school, why the school followed that protocol, and wanted me to know that the one restroom across from that one classroom would be unlocked from now on after lunch. Other students would still possibly experience the same situation. Again, I questioned the policy and where to find information on it. I asked for a map of the school with marked restrooms and the schedule for accessibility, as well as information on who is responsible for locking and unlocking doors. This is when it was brought to my attention that it's not a formal policy nor a board sanctioned protocol. I then said, "It's because it's illegal, isn't it?" The line went silent. I asked what they needed from me and the other parents to take this to the board to ensure the school has what they need to provide appropriately for our students and not use locking restrooms as their solution. Dr. Gonzalez really had nothing more to add to the conversation, so I asked to talk to the next person in line. I received a call from Mr. Rodriguez. Mind you, none of these people asked me or my son specifically what he experienced. They only felt the need to get me to understand them. Mr. Rodriguez began repeating Dr. Gonzalez's conversation. So when I attempted to interject and be heard, he scolded me and began to get short and frustrated. I was trying to ask questions and understand if they'd even considered any other alternatives other than locking kids out of restrooms. When I realized this conversation was going nowhere and no one was going to ask about Lucas's story, I let Mr. Rodriguez know that I don't know what else to do other than turn them into the state education office and seek legal counsel. Not as a threat, but as a means to understand how to ensure our school is following the law and to feel my son is in a school that puts their students first and has adults that are accountable. He hung up on me on that phone call, and by Friday afternoon, never checked back in with our family in regards to my son. I'm assuming never informed Miss Hazel, his boss, on the matter because she never bothered to reach out and check on our family either. I also began to feel the student services secretary was ignoring me because I had left 2 voicemails over 24 hours apart asking for the email addresses to Mr. Rodriguez and Miss Hazel.
We have to cut you off there, but thank you for your comments. Next, we have Jasmine Uristi.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Uresti. I'm a senior at Oasis High School, and I'll be speaking on behalf of Jessica Folks, who is a mother of a daughter that is a freshman at Fallbrook High School. I, Jessica Folks, am writing this to share my daughter's experience on how a locked bathroom affected her and while she was a student at Potter Junior High. On May 18th, 2023, at approximately 1 p.m., my daughter called me and she vomited outside of the nurse's office. After I picked her up, my daughter shared with me that her nearest bathroom to her class was locked, so she went to the next closest place, which was the nurse's office. Upon finding the nurse's door also locked, my daughter repeatedly banged on the door because the nurse had the reputation of being unavailable. My daughter, unable to get another appropriate location, vomited outside the door of the nurse's office. On that day, I felt that the nurse failed to do her job. I reported my concern about the unavailable nurse via the Contact Us form found on the website. I never heard back from anyone from the district. However, as time passed, I now realize that the nurse wasn't the only one who failed to do her job that day. It was the combination of the school's practice of locking bathrooms and locked nurse's office and the lid of my daughter's uncomfortable experience of having to vomit out of the walkway for anyone to witness. I respectfully request a change in the practice of locking bathrooms during school hours. I respectfully request that there is always a nurse or qualified person in the nurse's office during school hours. No other Potter Junior High student should need to worry about having to access the nearest bathroom. No other Potter Junior High student should be worried that the nurse is unavailable. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Rolando Uristi.
Good evening. My name is Rolando Uresti. I'm the father of Lucas. So I'm just going to briefly go over his situation, the incident that occurred for him. I'm just here to ensure that everybody who needs to know is in the loop on what happened to my son on 3rd day of school, 8th grade year, new to the school. My son had to use the restroom while he was in class, asked his teacher, and she gave him permission per the school map that was provided at the class schedule pickup. The week prior, my son knew where the closest restrooms were. He made his way to it only to find it locked. From there, he proceeded to the restroom behind the cafeteria, which to his surprise was also locked. Then he went to the restroom by the nurse's office, which was also locked. Three restrooms out of 5 that are on that map. 5 restrooms throughout the school. At this point, my son couldn't hold it anymore and had an accident. From here, he slowly and embarrassed made his way to his class to let his teacher know what had happened. She gave him a nurse's slip and sent him to the nurse. He informed her that he had an accident, and she then unlocked the restroom by her office, which was the third bathroom he went to. Which he then went in to clean himself up as best he could. He went back to the nurse. She gave him some wipes and a bag to put his dirty clothes in. Then she told my son to call home. It's not my son's responsibility to call me. It's the school's. I don't believe it was my son's responsibility to contact us. It should have been the nurse. So that's what he went through, and he hasn't been to school since because he's embarrassed, and we haven't had any answers to what is going to happen with those restrooms. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have DJ Camp.
I'm coming to talk tonight about this book here, My Shadow is Purple. I'm just going to say the book is totally innocuous. In my opinion, there's nothing there to be concerned about. But I do want to talk about something I think is much more important, and it's about the teachers and the staff at the Fallbrook Union Elementary School District. It's been my experience as a parent, as a PTA member, as a playground supervisor, as a teacher's aide, as a custodian, and as a person that volunteered his time to teach and talk about poetry to children with teacher supervision. I have never, ever, ever, ever met, seen, or run into a teacher at the Fallbrook Elementary School District that was not doing their maximum to help and teach every student they're around. I have never, and I've seen a lot of different things, but they all worked very hard. Obviously, there's some teachers that are more skilled than others, just like there isn't anything in life. But I really want to emphasize that I feel that this school district does an outstanding job at teaching teachers how to teach when they need to be schooled. And we have outstanding teachers out there teaching constantly. When I was a teacher's aide, I can say I was taught by teachers that taught me better methods to get the point across to different students than I may have known at the time. You know, I had all good students with my kids. I had the baseball bat approach. Okay, it worked for me, but I learned you can't do that in a school setting. So I learned from the teachers that were best at convincing students to be better students. And then I applied some of them to my last child, but the other three went the other way. But they all did good. They all did good in school. But I also think they did good in school because of me and my wife, but more importantly, because they got good schooling all the time from the teachers in the elementary school district. And I think it's invaluable that people understand that. Okay. The reason this book was brought in here tonight was because somebody was upset a couple of meetings ago about this gender book that really is innocuous. And obviously I'm a transgender person, as you well know, but the schooling that is here is far outweighs one teacher reading this story to one group of kids. And it had nothing to do with what else is being taught. So that is the end of what I have to say tonight. I want to let you know I appreciate this school district, and I think it has always been outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. And then last we have Bill Kavanaugh.
President McCray, members of the board, Superintendent Hazel. My name is Bill Kavanaugh, and the reason I've been attending these board meetings over the past few months is as an observer for the Fallbrook Democratic Club. Before I retired in 2020, I was a teacher in Lake Elsinore, and I served for nearly 10 years as president of the Lake Elsinore Teachers Association. I also served, like Dr. McCray, on the CTA State Council for a number of years, as well as attending several NEA conventions. so I have some experience at both attending and chairing meetings. And that brings me to my reason for speaking to you this evening. During your July meeting, as you were discussing new policy for your hearings process, I noticed that Mrs. Lundeen hesitated to propose an amendment to the motion until after the vote. This is the exact opposite of how parliamentary procedure is supposed to operate. Amendments to a motion should be considered prior to the final vote on the motion. Therefore, my request of the board is to ask you to do a brief review of parliamentary procedure over the next few weeks. One of the first things I did when I was elected president in Lake Elsinore was to research how to run effective and efficient meetings. My favorite resource was the book Robert's Rules for Dummies. For many years, our meetings have been somewhat chaotic, and meeting rules were loosely followed, if at all. It took us a while, but we finally achieved some decorum, and we found that people were more likely to attend. I bring this up because well-run meetings inspire confidence in both the participants and the observers of any particular meeting, and I would like to have that confidence as I observe your meetings. The first meeting I attended here, there were 20 people signed up to speak. You have two basic rules for your hearing section of the meeting. 1, 3 minutes per speaker, and 2, 20 minutes allotted time for all speakers. It was obvious that you all wanted to allow each person to speak, and had you been aware of parliamentary procedure, you could have suspended the 20-minute rule and added 30 minutes to the allotted time. This would have required a 2/3 majority to pass. Instead, you suspended the 3-minute rule without voting, cutting each speaker's time down to 1 minute. This not only didn't make any sense, it also didn't make anyone happy, and I'm certain that some of the speakers were downright upset. And if you think about it, had you known you could suspend the rules, you could have avoided several hours of discussion in subsequent meetings concerning the policy changes you ultimately made. I appreciate the dedication each of you demonstrate in your efforts on behalf of the children here in Fallbrook and also on Camp Pendleton. They deserve a board that earns the confidence of the public by running effective and efficient meetings. And that is why I urge you to become more familiar with parliamentary procedure. Thank you.
And that concludes our speaker square.
Thank you. And that will bring us to the report from the base liaison.
Good evening. It's good to see everyone. I do not have a report today.
Oh, well, there we go. That will bring us to the reports from the board. If someone would like to volunteer, or we can just start.
I was invited to San Onofre. I always mispronounce your school and I so apologize for it. And Mary Faye Pendleton for their back to school days. And I have to say, you have a beautiful schools. The teachers, the staff, and the principals are outstanding. And the chant that Mary Faye gave at the end was awesome when we were leaving. The staff is very friendly. The principals are great. I also wanted to say that on our way there, because it is a drive and it was my first time for being there, Miss Kimberly Husing was our designated driver. Sounds bad, huh? She was assigned driver. Yes, she was our assigned driver, and I learned so many new things about Camp Pendleton. She is a world of knowledge and made the trip really, really enjoyable. I thank you for that, and I thank Miss Monica for the lunch. We had lunch on base, and it was at a quaint little Mexican restaurant. Food delicious. I was glad that we could have had lunch there and enjoyed it thoroughly.
I wanted to thank our outstanding facilities team who worked over this weekend, getting all of our school sites ready for Hurricane Hillary. And thanks to their hard work, we were able to open our schools today. And I also wanted to thank our administration that grappled with the question of, do we remain open or closed today? Balancing the question of, would there be a remnants of the storm versus families count on us to have their children here and safe and going through a day of academic learning. And, you know, some of the big campuses, LA Unified, San Diego Unified, all said they were going to be closed. So it was rather bold to say that we would be open, and we opened to sunny skies. So kudos. That was a good move, and it took courage to step out there and go outside of the box.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. Thank you to the facilities and all the staff that worked over the weekend to make sure that our schools would be good for today. So I'm glad to see that we continued as scheduled. So thank you all for your work over this weekend. And we are back to school. Have really had different emotions from my seventh grader and my fourth grader. My seventh grader was very excited to go back to school. So I'm really glad to see that. My fourth grader, who's usually pretty excited about school, had mixed emotions. He was nervous. I guess it's just part of his phase that he's going through, but ultimately he had a great day when he went back to school. So I'm glad to see my kids excited about school. I know for me, when I was a kid, I did not want to go back to school after the summer. Summer was great.
Yeah.
Summer was great, but yeah. So really, again, thanks to all the administration, teachers, everyone for making back to school such a great occasion for students. I had a chance to start the Masters in Governance program because we are learning while we're on the job as well. So we definitely appreciate the opportunity to learn more about how to learn more about governance, to learn more about protocols and do what we can, do what's best for our families and our district. So I'm excited about that opportunity. So I had a chance to attend with Mary and also Superintendent Hazel as well. So it's an additional thing to do, but hey, I mean, that's what it takes to be committed to this job here. Also wanted to express my appreciation for the ACES program and the Boys and Girls Club. We're at a moment in our lives at home where we need after school opportunities, just because of our work situation. So really learn to appreciate more these programs that are being offered after school for our students to help with working parents. And so just want to send some kudos out to that as well. All right.
So I also appreciate the facilities people and all the work they did to get our schools ready during this storm, and the administration for the great job they did to stay on top of it. So I got to attend with the cabinet and Mrs. Diana, I'm used to calling her, sorry, for San Onofre and Mary Faye. And that I agree. I echo what she said. So it was great to be there and to watch and listen to their different brainstorming ideas that they had at each table. They were all divided by tables, and the things that they were working on. And then as far as I also got to, as he just mentioned, to go to the Masters in Governance, and that was extremely informative. It's something I want to reread so that I can keep that information, because that was a lot of information to be there all day. And we will continue to go to those classes as they are provided. But that's about it. Thank you very much.
And I would also like to echo my thanks to the executive cabinet, what they do behind the scenes. Most people don't ever know. They did keep us informed. We were constantly getting emails. So I was very appreciative that they gave up their weekend, because it's really the only time they have to eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom, which they don't utilize enough. So that was lovely to see that they were right on top of it. I got the emails, and everything that was in there was everything that they were doing. I was confident we were going to open. I couldn't imagine we were going to be closed. So that was lovely. Thank you so much. I was also invited to attend the Mike Choate luncheon. I didn't get to see the little ones because I was right there in transition. One group had already left and one group hadn't come in yet, so I didn't get to see the little tiny ones. But it was very lovely. The staff was very lovely. I can tell they really enjoy working with the little ones. And I want to especially thank Amy. She catered the lunch for the entire staff. It was fantastic. And because I'm vegan, she even did special, it was my box. No one was going to touch my box. So she did everything in there was vegan for me, including the cookies, which I'm sure she made. And they were delicious. Amy is a wizard. She needs to work in culinary school because she's really a wizard. And I also want to give a special thanks to Elaine, who is Mrs. Martin's secretary or executive assistant or whatever correct term she wants me to call her. I just call her Elaine. Elaine works tirelessly. I get emails. I don't try to email her after hours because I do not find that to be appropriate, but Elaine will always email me and let me know something. She's always available. She's the loveliest soul. I can't imagine her getting mad, but if she does, I don't want to see it because I don't want to see it. They are very lucky to have her. We are very lucky to have her. And I truly appreciate everything that you do because there's things that you don't have to do, but you just, it's who you are and you do them. So thank you very much, Elaine. And with that, now it will be report from our superintendent, Mrs. Hazel.
And I have a lengthy report because it's been really busy over the last 2 weeks since our last board meeting. And I think it bears repeating. I also want to thank our entire team, our executive team, to Bryson, Robert, and Steve and their teams, our custodians, groundkeepers, and maintenance workers. They were at sites until 7:30 last night, checking. They were cleaning out the drains. There were trees that were down. They were getting the school ready before, late into the night. And then they were also back on the job at 5 o'clock this morning, again, cleaning out the drains, sweeping away the water, making sure that we could open for school. I also want to thank Raul and Luz in communications because we had to do some very quick translations and communications because it was, San Diego Unified decided to close. And so that was a little bit confusing for our families. And so we wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we were keeping very close connection with our local officials to make sure that it was safe to open, that we were going to be watching the situation. So the communications department had to do some quick translations and send out and post everything on all of the websites. So I think sometimes the community doesn't, fully know and understand what the job is behind the scenes on the weekend to make that happen. And I'm just really proud to be part of this team. One of the things that I love about Fallbrook is that I feel that everybody has a whatever it takes attitude. And I've seen that everywhere that I've gone. Also, thank you to the principals, the APs, the crossing guards, the office staff, and the supervision support. It was just a great day. We all went to schools this morning to make sure, just to be an extra pair of hands in the rain and help our families. And so it was really exciting to see all the kids. Like you shared, there were a lot of welcome backs. So I love the video. I think it really captured the spirit of our last 2 weeks. We had a caravan. We went to every single school in our district. We shared our district mission and vision. We got a chance to know our schools. Our schools participated in this activity where we had the teams talk about, what do they love in particular about Fallbrook. I'm still getting to know everyone. I've just been here for about 6 weeks now. And so it was important for me to understand, what's the culture of this district? What do people love and value about this district so that I can hold those things close and make sure that those things are continued. And so we had an opportunity. We brought a little bit here for you to see what our staff really appreciated about the work. And I wanted to thank our board members for attending the caravan all the way through. A big thank you to trustees Sebel and McBride and McCrae. I greatly appreciate all of everybody. You really represented the whole board very well. I also wanted to thank our Fallbrook Rotary. they put on an amazing, they do it every year. And they just, again, back to service is, they were all out in the park. We went to Ingold Park. They invited the entire district. They did a back to school barbecue with hamburgers and hot dogs. And it was really just a wonderful opportunity to get all the schools together. So staff who had, worked at different schools over the time could see one another. And again, it just shows me how the community really supports our schools. And so I want to make sure that I'm available to our community when things go well and when there's challenges. We had amazing meet and greets at every school site. So every school site took the opportunity to have an event for parents so that before the first day of school, that children could come onto the campus, they could find where their class was, they could put a face to the name of the teacher, and really so that the first day of school was not about nervousness, but more about, being happy to see your friends and be back to school. And so each of the schools did a really nice job with that. Also wanted to thank Trustee Favela and Trustee McBride. We are in 5 sessions of Masters in Governance. It's 5 Saturdays from 8 to 5. And we are working to refine our practices so that we understand the role of governance and all the policies and procedures. So it's a 5 session Saturdays and 8 hours a day. And so I appreciate them giving that gift of time and really putting the time in so that we can be a very healthy board and follow all the rules and policies. Exceptional first day back for students. We're at all of our schools the first week. So we got a chance to see all of what you saw on the video today. And it just is the most wonderful experience. I want to share with you that our enrollment increased. We're at 5,184 students, including our preschool. And at this time last year, our enrollment was at 5,048. So our enrollment is up 136 students. We're one of the very few districts in the county that's seeing increased enrollment. And that's a testament to our staff and our district and our leadership. So I just wanted to give you that update. And then additionally, our after-school programs began on day 1. This is something that we really pride ourselves in. We have after-school programming for all of our students. This year, we had, there were 850 students participating in after-school programs. So that means 214 more students than last year are participating in after-school programming. And I know our parent community really supports that. And so I thank the board for your support, financial support to continue to offer that. Quick update from HR. Thank you. We've been working very hard to fill all of our positions. There's some hiring announcements on our websites. You'll see some banners to showcase our schools to continue to hire our classified positions. So it's been a busy 2 weeks and but a really exciting 2 weeks. Feel good 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Hazel. That brings us to action item approval of amendment to superintendent's contract. The board is considering amendments to the current contract of employment for the superintendent prior to taking final action. Government Code Section 54953 requires an oral summary of the recommendation for approval of the salaries, salary schedules, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of a local agency executive during open session of a regular meeting in which the final action is to be taken. Accordingly, I am providing an oral summary of the recommendations being considered by the board today. The term of the superintendent's contract of employment remains 2023 through 2026. The amendment clarifies that the superintendent is entitled to participate in health and welfare benefits programs offered by the district on the same terms as other certificated management personnel. The amendment provides the superintendent with 24 vacation days, which is the same number of vacation days provided to other cabinet, management, and confidential personnel. Except as modified by the amendment, the current contract of employment shall remain in full force and effect. Thank you. So do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Oh, go ahead, Mary.
I'll second.
Okay, no.
Well, I think it's important to mention that this is actually brings us to what we originally intended in the contract. So this was actually a correction that's being made. Right, so it's bringing it up to date with what we originally had planned. Thank you.
Ms. Sabal?
Aye.
Ms. Lundin?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Ms. McBride?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That brings us to information workshop and conference attendance. Any other presentation or no? No. And then that brings us.
Wait, I have a comment to make about that. Okay. Mr. Amando, you're recently new on our board. You've been here about a month. And I was looking at this and it has been approved by Monica to spend $6,000 to train you for a superintendent position. And I think that it needs to wait a little bit because he's only been here a month. He hasn't been evaluated. We don't know what his evaluations are going to be. So I think a hold should be put on that until a later date.
It's okay with me, because I'm not familiar with what the consent is. So.
Okay. It is a session that actually was offered to the entire executive cabinet. And it is titled an aspiring superintendent session, but it really is professional development at the executive cabinet level with the roles that they're currently in. It helps with leadership, and it's run by the Leadership Associates, which is a reputable organization. So I believe that it's something that is something that would be beneficial for the cabinet members for them to be able to do their jobs. But I understand that the title is a bit misleading but that the content really is very focused on general leadership that will support them in their current roles. And there's numerous positions of different associate superintendents of business, of HR, of ed services that you'll find in this particular session.
Thank you so much for the question. I just want to communicate that one of the reasons why I joined this amazing district is the fact that it offers opportunities for professional growth. I have no aspirations of becoming a superintendent in the near few years. My goal and my commitment is to Fallbrook Union Elementary School District because I want to be a part of the amazing journey that we are embarking on that I believe will yield astronomical academic gains for every single one of our students. So in closing, my goal is not to leave because I took this training. My goal is to grow professionally so I can be an added value to this amazing institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Okay, so that brings us to, it is recommended the governing board approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve?
I have a couple more.
Oh, that's what I was asking.
On the contract leaders associates, the $10,000 to help you with the superintendent position. When we signed that contract with them to help us find a superintendent, it was for $25,000. And in that $25,000, I thought I remember reading, I'd like to see a copy signed and dated that we went through them, that they were going to come back and help us with what we expected out of a superintendent and what we were looking for and what would help you with your job to grow. I thought they were supposed to come back at no charge and help us with that was in the contract.
I haven't seen, the contract was agreed upon prior to me starting. Yeah. And so I haven't seen that contract. So I can't tell you what is in there. But this is an additional program, not part of that.
Copy of that? Because if they're supposed to help us, then the next one is with the CSBA Governance Consulting Service. That's $5,500. And if the leadership is supposed to come back, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was in his contract that they would come back and guide us, then we would not need to pay out this additional money to the CSBA.
Yeah, as far as I know, based on my discussions with that particular consultant, that was not part of the original contract, and that the reason that we went with CSBA is because in my contract, it says that my evaluation due date is coming up in September, and we need to gather together as a board to set the goals and the vision for the district and develop my evaluation. And so to support that, the CSBA offers that consulting service, and it's not part of what the original superintendent search contract included. So I haven't seen the contract. Sure. And it would be with the agenda item when Leadership Associates was selected.
And I don't want to misspeak, so correct me if anyone remembers differently. I think the agreement was that they were coming back to help with the assistant soup search. That was part of the agreement. Does somebody remember a different? No.
I don't remember that part.
Okay.
I thought it was just the superintendent search. But they did help at no
That's good.
cost with
Yeah.
the assistant
Mhm.
superintendent search for HR.
Well,
Right, with no additional cost.
With no
That's
additional
what I
cost.
thought the agreement was, that there was no additional cost in regards to helping secure a new assistant superintendent, but there was never anything in regards to staying on to support the superintendent.
I think it is very typical for a new superintendent to have a coach. And so I do believe in continued learning, and I want to do a great job in this role. It often is in a superintendent's contract. It wasn't as part of my contract, but it's something that I would greatly benefit from. And I want to make sure that I do a good job in my first year.
But weren't you a superintendent for 5 or 6 years already, Monica?
I was an area superintendent for San Diego Unified School District. So there are some unique differences between an area superintendent and a superintendent. And the primary difference is in the board governance. So I did not sit on the dais in San Diego Unified. The superintendent sits on the dais in San Diego Unified. And so I was in the audience for the board meetings. I wasn't part of the board development and the agenda development. And so the work that I'm doing with Masters in Governance, Robert's Rules, all of those sessions that I'm attending on the weekends are part of that learning curve.
Well, on the consent agenda, that's the only 2 issues that I had.
I did have a question, but I realized we didn't vote to bring up the discussion, but
I realized that too. I let her go ahead.
But since we're on that point, I'm definitely in favor of coaching. I think it's part of when we have the opportunity to provide coaching to our staff. I'm always for it. I wanted to see if we could consider or if we could consider looking at what the San Diego County Office of Education has to offer in terms of coaching, and also I wanted to suggest the National Center for Urban School Transformation, which is based out of SDSU. The executive director is Dr. Francisco Escobedo, who was the superintendent of Chula Vista Union Elementary School District, who, as folks might know, that school district was a national outlier for their student achievement and whatnot. So I just wanted to see if maybe we could table that point and see if we could look into those options. So I guess my request would be if we could, I don't know the procedure, is it to pull item number 9 table for the next meeting? See if we can consider a couple other options to see what other agencies might be able to provide in terms of coaching.
Item 8, is that the one you're talking about, or 9?
I believe it's
You're the
8.
2.
Item 8, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
So in terms of procedure, would be an amendment to?
No,
we
you
need
just
a vote first.
make a motion that item 8 be pulled. You need a second, and then that's voted on. Is that right, Board President? Yes.
So I would make a motion that item 8 be pulled and tabled for our next meeting.
All right, is there a second?
Second,
All right,
aye.
yes, Lundin.
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Ms. McBride? Aye. Okay, I'll vote aye as well. So item 8 will be pulled and added to our next meeting. And then we're okay with the vote for the remaining items. All right, Ms. Sabal?
Aye.
Ms. Lundin?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Ms. McBride? Aye. And I vote aye as well.
Board President, may I
Yes,
just make
ma'am.
a suggestion? The item that Mr. Favela was talking about, we should maybe put in the minutes that when we do consider it the next meeting, I think your request was that a couple of other sources be being explored. Yeah, okay, thanks. Because otherwise I won't remember when we get to the next meeting,
there'll be-
why we're voting on it again. Thanks.
All right, and that brings us to adjournment at 6:58.